March Madness is officially here. The brackets are out, and NC State men's basketball may have gotten a bad draw in a tournament they're not even in.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Monday show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can sign up today and get $200 back in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Head on over to FanDuel.com in order to get started. Happy Monday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs with a message to share, Wade to State. How are we doing, Kenton?
Hey, I'm great. You know what I mean? Let me tell you something. It's a great time to be a Wolfpacker. And, I just want to let everybody know, even though we all may have hated to see the Dirty Foot Club get into the NCAA tournament, RJ Davis, Hubert Davis, Sammy Davis, Will Wade and 5. That's what's going on, baby. Will Wade and 5. In Wade we trust.
We've been hot on this trail of the coaching search for NC State men's basketball. We gave you the last update on Friday. We had some flight tracker alerts going on. Will Wade meeting with Boo Corrigan down in Houston to discuss potentially the details of a deal coming to fruition here. Over the course of the weekend, we saw a couple more updates. Nothing groundbreaking, so to speak. I saw some hints and possibly rumors. I saw an update come from someone inside of the NC State pep band. That was probably my favorite thing that I saw over the course of the entire weekend. I'll touch more on that in just a second. But more and more, Kenton, you can feel that NC State is potentially inching closer to getting this thing done.
Trilly Donovan being scooped by a pep band member. Ladies and gentlemen, 2025 is off to some start, ain't it? But in all seriousness, this is a moment where, you can't help but to be excited because, yes, we're coming off one of the worst seasons in program history. However, in a year where we're only 1 year removed from an ACC championship and a Final Four, and in a year where we're looking up and seeing the opportunity where the stars are aligning very well for us to get the hottest name in men's basketball right now. Like, there is not a single other name. I want you to think about this for a second. Hurley was the guy last year, right? And it was talks with him going to the Lakers or staying at UConn. And they just got destroyed in the Big East Championship, in the Big East Tournament Championship. They just got took to the woodshed by Creighton and Coach McDermott. Like, there is not a single name in all of college basketball right now. Coach Calipari, who's constantly a name thrown out in these things, not quite there. There is nobody in college basketball that's on the move or that's static that people are clamoring for more than Will Wade. So the opportunity to get him has presented itself in a major way. It has presented itself for State, and this feels like we finally get one. It feels like this is not like a Devin Hester, I almost went there, but then Granny said she couldn't see me play. It's not a John Wall, I almost went there, but then I'm like, I'm from Raleigh, that's right down the street. It finally feels like we got us one.
And that's why we spoke so intently about the timing of this for NC State, because as of right now, NC State, alongside with like Virginia, Indiana now that they did not make March Madness, that opening is officially open. NC State was one of the first teams on the scene announcing they have a vacancy. And Will Wade was one of the first names connected to NC State. And there really hasn't been many connections of him to any other school outside of like whispers on if this piece goes here, then perhaps he'll fall into place there. But it's only been that, just whispers. The tangible connection between NC State and Will Wade has been there seemingly throughout. There was a little roller coaster-ish over the course of last week, but right now they seem to be in cahoots, I guess you could say. A rumored second meeting took place over the weekend, but nonetheless, however you cut it or slice it here, NC State is making progress. And I think when you see One-Pack NIL, tout all the numbers that they're experiencing over the last week. They said this past week was their biggest single week ever in terms of new members, all the donations rolling in. That's not for nothing. And they often say when there's smoke, there's fire. That tells you that behind the scenes, wheels are in motion to get this thing done. NC State has identified Will Wade as their top target, and they are working diligently to make sure that thing does get done. And of course, there are other obstacles to discuss now. The bracket is out. I guess we'll just go ahead and get into that. Of course, Clemson and McNeese are matched up in the opening round. For those who have not heard us already say this, Will Wade is an alum of Clemson, and there has been rumors that Brad Brownell, the current head coach of Clemson, could be linked to the Indiana opening. And if Brownell were to jump to Indiana, perhaps Will Wade could be connected to Clemson. However, I've also been told several times, and I've seen for myself, that Brad Brownell did sign a contract extension this past summer. So that extension is still relatively new. I don't think it's something that Clemson or Indiana wouldn't be able to overcome, but nonetheless, it makes you sweat just a little bit because, of course, these two teams would have to face off in the first round. For NC State, at least in my mind, you need Clemson to win this game. If you want to talk about the urgency and the timing of the situation, you want McNeese State to lose as quick as possible. They will tip off at 3:15 on Thursday in Providence, Rhode Island. I would hope that you're hearing a little bit of buzz by about 6 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. You need Clemson to finish the deal, and right shortly thereafter, you need NC State to finish the deal with pen to paper.
Let me tell you something. This ain't nothing but some good old-fashioned aura farming, as the kids would say, by Will Wade, okay? He wants to have a situation. By the way, I'm joking. He's not on the committee, and I'm sure that the committee only set this up because, like, oh, it's a good storyline and all that, but, you know, Will Wade obviously didn't have anything to do with this. This is good old-fashioned aura farming. He wants to stand over his alma mater and say, look at that. That's unfortunate what happened to you boys, isn't it? Anywho, on to the round of 32 we go. But in all seriousness, I'm less pessimistic about the situation than Grayson is here. I'm not really worried. Even if McNeese beats Clemson, I'm not too worried about that. I'm not. Now, if we were talking about McNeese to the Final Four, that may be a little problematic. That may present some very serious problems. But, with what I'm seeing right now, I'm like, hey, you know, they're a good team. They could go far in the tournament. They absolutely – Will Wade has them balling. He's recruited some absolute studs, some thoroughbreds out there. And so it's not a situation where I'd be shocked and appalled to see them do well. But even then, if what I'm hearing is correct, win all you want. Enjoy them while you got them this next week or two. Because he's a man of his word, as he's already told us. And he gave this 2 years. So you're gonna have to come up in the words of Victor Sweet of Four Brothers. That's too much for y'all. You're gonna have to share that. You have to share that. We need you to share. There's some of that Will Wade magic, all right?
Yeah, I mean, well said. To Kenton's point there, I'm not so worried about just that matchup with Clemson. I'm worried about the storyline that McNeese gets hot, beats Clemson, and then goes on a deep run. For those of you that remember, AD at the time, Debbie Yao, had essentially identified Shaka Smart was going to be the head coach at NC State, and then he took VCU to the Final Four, and he became too hot to trot. And bigger suitors came along. Obviously, Shaka Smart did not get here. That relationship seemed kind of frayed, and it even was brought up last year when we saw Marquette in March Madness. So that is the nightmare situation for NC State at this point. That's why you need McNeese to lose early, not just to Clemson, but just lose early, period. It just so happens that they're facing off against Clemson because, again, of course they are. The committee loves to pull off little stunts like this one. Not exactly a surprise. But nonetheless, the urgency of this situation for NC State, they want this done this week. They want to get this done as soon as humanly possible. And if that means Thursday evening or Friday with an announcement coming, later on that weekend, possibly Saturday or Sunday, I'd have to imagine that is the goal. That is the target for Boo Corrigan and NC State if Will Wade is your guy. You don't want to wait around or let him wait around. And I mean, you can't force his hand, so to speak, but the longer that this situation lingers, the more potential complications that you could see pop up for NC State. So if this is going to happen, and at this point, the two of us believe that it will, I think you'll see this go down by the end of this week. So something to keep an eye out, of course. Clemson and McNeese will play on Thursday, 3:15 tip in Providence, Rhode Island, the first round of March Madness. We'll see if this ends up being a good thing or a bad thing for NC State, but I do find a little bit of humor that NC State potentially got a bad draw in a tournament that they are literally not even in. Coming up next, we're going to discuss what else needs to be cleared, the other obstacles that need to be cleared if NC State is going to get this thing across the finish line. More on this after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first Monday sponsor is Factor. Eating healthy doesn't have to be complicated. With Factor, you can get chef-made, dietitian-approved meals that are ready to heat and eat in only just 2 minutes. You can fuel your body without the hassle of cooking. I know that's right. Factor meals arrive fresh, never frozen, and with 40 options across 8 dietary preferences each week, so you can customize your menu to fit your goals, whether that's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or even keto. Factor will keep you on track with healthy, delicious meals without the time-consuming prep. You can try out their Korean beef bowl or creamy Parmesan chicken, and they taste homemade with little effort. Factor also offers smoothies, breakfast, and snacks, so you can always have something nutritious ready to go. Eat smarter with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. They never make these easy to read. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/factorpodcast. So that's FACTORPODCAST, Factor Podcast, to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box, only at Factor Meals. Our second Monday sponsor is Supply House. Get the supplies that you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the most reliable way to order your products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from the top 400-plus brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast all the way from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person, not a robot. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off of your first order, only on supplyhouse.com. Middle portion of our Monday show, still discussing this ongoing coaching search, heavily involved with Will Wade at the helm for NC State here. Number one option as it seems so far. Again, NC State had also been in talks with Justin Gainey, the assistant head coach, or I guess the associate head coach in waiting, so to speak, at Tennessee. We know that State's been in contact with Gainey. I've seen interviews where Gainey said that he would take the job if it were offered, but he does understand that NC State is also talking to other people. So he kind of, it seems, understands that he would be the second choice. And it only reaffirms my belief that Will Wade is not only the first choice, but this is inching closer to actually getting done. That leads me directly into my next point. I had referenced a tweet from a Sarah Sisk in the NC State pep band. I'll go ahead and pull that up here. Sarah Sisk had tweeted over the weekend, quote, "The pep band has been invited to play for the new head coach announcement. No date yet, but athletics seems to know who, just waiting for it to be official. We've been told to be on the lookout as it will be a very quick notification before we have to perform." And a very nice touch here at the end, hashtag Wade to State. So a lot of people kind of clamored into her mentions. I understand that there's also supposed to be an announcement and kind of like a celebration press conference type thing for the new chancellor, which will be Kevin Howell. Supposedly that will be happening on Tuesday. And so people started connecting the dots. Sarah then actually clarified in a second tweet that reads, "We got 2 emails, one about a historic announcement, which will have the marching band members performing, and one will be for the new head coach, which pep band members will be performing," unquote. So again, you don't send emails out to your pep band and your marching band unless either one, you do actually know who the head coach is going to be. I'm talking about the athletic department. They know who it is. Or 2, you're on like the 3-yard line and it's 1st and goal. You don't have everyone start mobilizing unless you are damn near close to getting this thing done. So shout out to Sarah, obviously, as well. I hope she sees this because she had by far the best tweet of the entire weekend. For the pep band to start mobilizing here, I do believe that this will get done this week for NC State.
First of all, Grayson, follow that young lady back. Give her a return on that follow.
I didn't even notice that. My fault.
First thing first. Second off, shout out to you, Miss Sisk. Again, there are certain things where when I get information from certain sources, I cannot reveal them as soon as I get them because it's like, oh no, like there's only so many people who know this, and it very clearly gives things away. But Miss Sisk is working to affirm what has already been one of the worst kept secrets in Raleigh over the past few days. We're going to keep our eye on this. And again, shout out to the pep band. Miss Sisk and company have good credits in the Locked On Wolfpack streets. You know what I mean? Your credit's good with us. Boo, get this to the finish line. Okay? Get this to the finish line. Now, I can share with you that the details of the second meeting were allegedly, as I was told, was to like, hey, reaffirm fully. The first meeting was, this is what I need. This is what I would need to make this happen. Woo, woo, woo. The second meeting was done. We got it. What else is there needed? Let's get the details. Woo, woo, woo. Let's iron out the fine print here. And that's, as I was told, that's what happened. That, again, I'm not going to say I'm infallible. I'm not going to, because there were times where, thank God, 29-year-old Ken is here and not 21, 22-year-old Ken who just got into journalism. There were times where I wanted to pick up the phone and call somebody everything but a child of God. But, shout out to my peoples who I know watch this show who give me great information on the regular. So, this is one of those things where I don't think there are a ton of obstacles to overcome. Like Grayson said, it literally is a bad draw in the sense of like, hey, we kind of need you to, to get this over with. And that's pretty much the only thing that we're looking at here.
Yeah. To further that point, the two of us have been told that these meetings between Will Wade and NC State essentially, and as any coach would this day and age, Will Wade wants to know that he can financially be competitive if he is to take this job at NC State.
Especially since our last coach had a really big gripe with that. Very big gripe about financial support because apparently we were the 16th most. Never mind. We're not going to do that today. Go ahead, Grace. I apologize for my outburst.
No, essentially, Will Wade wants to be competitive with some of the top teams in terms of spending in the ACC. He wants to come in, hit the ground running, and be able to compete with the Dukes, the Dirty Foot Clubs, the Louisvilles, the Miamis, whoever it is. He wants to ensure that the resources and the financial backing will be there if he comes to NC State. And that's very smart on his part for a coach that needs to suss out the best possible situation for him, because I too would want these type of assurances. If I'm Will Wade, I want to know, can you get me to XYZ number, whatever it will be? I'm assuming it's probably at least double or triple what we were running out this year, because this year was only $2 million. That ain't going to cut it. So if I'm Will Wade, I want to know that NC State can help me get to a number that I see fit to compete that level, and then I'll take it from there. I will bring my talent pool, my coaching tree, some players I'm sure he might even have in mind that he wants to bring with him to Raleigh if this thing does come to fruition. I would imagine any coach at this stage is going to want to have those conversations. Will Wade is certainly no different. And I think it's very reassuring to see Wolfpack, as I mentioned, all week. New record of signups for 1 week. I think it was like 322 in a week. That's outstanding. And they're raising upwards of hundreds, thousands of dollars in just a week's time. I guess technically under a week's time. That's getting it done.
Confirmed. With nothing confirmed, by the way.
With nothing publicly confirmed. Obviously, we don't have all those numbers at our disposal, but it certainly looks like things are trending in the right direction. And so I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, that leads me to my next question here, Kenton. If this is even a done deal at this point and McNeese plays on Thursday, do you expect to hear anything before they play, or do you think this will kind of play out the rest after they're done playing?
So, I mean, I think that we've heard all that we can hear before they're done playing. So I don't think that anything more than what, because again, we've seen some situations where things were very tight-lipped, where it was just like, you just looked up and the thing happened. And this isn't one of those. Like, this is something that has been very public, that has been very much so known. We've got the flight trackers. We've got the records of not records, but we've got the multiple sources confirming, hey, these meetings are happening. Woo, 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 woo. This is not a situation where I think it's going to be a long time after, the season's over and we're stuck waiting, kind of sitting on our thumbs like, okay, McNeese has been done for a week now. Oh, they've been done for 2 weeks now. I highly, highly doubt that that's the case.
Yeah, I believe if McNeese does lose on Thursday, I think by like midday of Friday if this is a done deal. It's going to happen quick because NC State, they want this finalized as soon as possible. The last thing, just to reiterate, the last thing you want is a deep McNeese run into this tournament, and we don't want to relive a Shaka Smart situation. So, again, this thing's going in the right direction, folks. We can't say anything more than that, but you should feel confident about where this thing is going. Good news, feels like it's on the way. The hay is not in the barn, so we can't put it in the barn yet, especially not as NC State fans, but it's currently trending in the right direction. Last thing I want to say here, I did see Joe Giglio, and again, I believe in Joe Giglio, but I don't believe in what he told you on Sunday. He floated out Richard Pitino's name. Richard Pitino is currently the head coach of New Mexico as a potential third finalist in this search. I think that is a blatant smokescreen. And I'll give you the beginning, middle, and end of this entire conversation. Is everybody ready? In more games as a head coach against worse competition, Richard Pitino has a worse head coaching record than Kevin Keatts. If you're looking for a big hire and you're raising all this money and you're getting wheels turned behind the scenes, it ain't for Richard Pitino. I'm sorry to tell you. So I saw that. I immediately dismissed it. That will not have any bearing on how this thing plays out. In my mind, it is either Will Wade or it is Justin Gainey. There are two options, and it's going to be one of the two. And that's why I tweeted last week, best case is Will Wade, worst case is Justin Gainey. That's a good spot to be if you're NC State. Because even if you're disappointed, if this doesn't somehow work out and you do get Justin Gainey, you can sell hope in Justin Gainey. So don't be confused by seeing Richard Pitino's name all of a sudden. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. He was fired from Minnesota because he couldn't win at Minnesota. I'll leave that there.
I just want to let y'all know that if it is, in fact, Richard Pitino, I'm going to start screaming like Kendrick Lamar in that one music video where he's sitting at the bar like by himself and he's just like, ah! That's going to be the intro to that episode of Locked On Wolfpack. Because that's how I'm going to feel internally. If there was all this buildup for Richard Pitino. I am not kidding you when I say that would be more disappointing than the bowl game loss to ECU. And by a mile. Not even close. Not even like a, do I got to think about it? I would legitimately, because again, my whole thing about it, I was not one of the people who was like, Keats has to go yesterday. I wasn't one of those people. But I was a person who was like, I'm fine with getting rid of Keats. Just have something better on the way.
Right.
And here's the thing, right? A good friend of mine, you know, a man that I've known for a little bit of time now, but he's a good dude. Jonas Pope tweeted, what if this doesn't work out for NC State? What if NC State gets Will Wade and it doesn't work out? If NC State gets Will Wade and it doesn't work out, here's why Wolfpack Nation would be a lot less frustrated than if it were anybody else. At least you know the administration left no bullets in the chamber.
Yeah.
They left no stone unturned. They got into every crack and crevice. They checked between all the cushions to get every single cent that was left to say, we're going to put everything. We're going to push every card to the middle. And we got a guy that we believe is the coach of the future who, again, the moral things about him, it was just early. He wasn't wrong. It was just early. And we did everything we could to get that, and it didn't work. So you live with that. You live with that. But you live with a guy, 30-3 right now. You live with a guy that not only 30-3 at LSU was crushing it. Came in after a team that had the number one pick and missed the NCAA tournament. That's an actual fact about LSU. They had the number one pick in Ben Simmons. And yes, we all know what Ben Simmons is now, but that was college Ben Simmons. That was a very different guy. So you had the number one pick on the team, could not get to the NCAA tournament. Will Wade comes in, immediately whips that team into shape. And you know, again, things happen with the paying players and all that. He's just a man of the people. He felt like the laborers were being exploited and those who toil should reap. That's all. So That is what that is. And again, this is a situation where the biggest obstacle that NC State had to get out of the way was not going all in. Was leaving something behind and saying, we'll be invested in the search. We're not going to throw everything, including the kitchen sink. Because they did. So this is a situation where, again, even if it doesn't work out, NC State, the Pack gave it every damn thing they had in this search and in this hire, potentially. They gave it everything they had.
So in summary here, NC State has met with Will Wade and has gone well. Second, the collective is killing it right now, collecting new memberships, a ton of donations, hundreds of thousands of dollars have rolled in literally just under a week's time. The pep band is mobilizing behind the scenes, waiting for the official announcement to be ready for that event. Certainly not nothing. Clemson plays McNeese State on Thursday afternoon, 3:15 game, and NC State wants this done at the end of this week. So you can read into the tea leaves as far as you want, but this all feels like good news for NC State. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the NC State team that is playing in March Madness. Women's basketball earns the 2 seed in the Spokane region. UCLA is the number 1 seed. We'll talk more on this after a quick word from our sponsors. Our third Monday sponsor is FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 back in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories to even who's going to cut down the nets. I've got my eye on a couple underdogs this year, and FanDuel is making it easier than ever to back them with spreads, totals, and even some game props. With tournament games happening nearly every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is super easy to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. Zero waiting around. Head on over to FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long, only on FanDuel. Last couple minutes of our Monday show. Now diving into NC State women's basketball. They are playing in March Madness, and they will be a very formidable threat at that. They slotted into the Spokane region with the top-seeded number 1 overall UCLA Bruins. NC State will be the 2 seed, and they're hosting. One of my favorite things about the women's tournament is the opening rounds home games for teams that are high enough seeded. I think it's 1 through 4. So NC State will be the 2 seed in this bracket. They will host 15 seeded Vermont, and the other 2 in Raleigh with us will be 7 seeded Michigan State and the 10 seed Harvard, who just notched their most wins in school history with 24. Kenton, what are your thoughts on NC State earning the 2 seed?
I think it fits. I think that this is where they belonged and what they had earned. And you remember last year when I saw the bracket for the women's side of the tournament?
I did.
What did I say immediately?
The correct prediction right off the bat.
What did I say immediately, Grayson?
You looked at the bracket, said, yep, NC State's going to the Final Four.
Well, this year, I'm not as sure about that. And I know that some people are going to take that as me downing this team or something like that. No. This team is phenomenal, and off a couple breaks, 1 or 2, definitely Final Four bound. Not saying that that's an impossibility for this team. There are worse matchups for them this year in this bracket than there were in that one. I knew looking at that bracket last year, I said, wait a minute. None of these teams have anything for them, including Texas. Like that was a team that I looked at, and I'm like, their front court is wildly overrated, and our front court was wildly underrated. River Baldwin and Mimi Collins were fantastic in their roles. Mimi as a stretch forward, River Baldwin as the rim protector, rebounder, all those good things. This year, I mean, here's the thing, right? Am I worried about Vermont? No, not really. Am I worried about Michigan State? Also, no, not really. Am I worried about Harvard? Yes. Harvard presents a problem. I'm telling y'all right now, whatever you have read, whatever you think about this young lady, I believe it is Harmony Brown, Harmony Turner, whatever you think about her, she's better than that. She is better than that. She leads her team in every single statistic except blocks. Everything else, she's a leader for a good reason. She is phenomenal. Now, outside of her, do they have anything that I'm like, oh man, they could do a lot with NC State? Not really, but here's the thing. Harvard has a lot of players that are starring in their roles. They don't have a bunch of stars. They have a bunch of players that are like, hey, the team revolves around Harmony. She's the sun. We work around her and work it out from there. And again, I'm not saying that they're guaranteed to beat Michigan State. I'm just saying they'd be a tougher out than Michigan State. And then the actual team that I'm most worried about on this side of the bracket is not UCLA. It's LSU. LSU to me is the worst matchup for NC State because LSU's front court is, again, that is NC State's Achilles heel this year. Any team a team has beaten NC State this year, it has been because they have dominated on the glass and got what they wanted at the rim. How do you dominate on the glass and get what you want at the rim? You have better bigs. It's just a de facto part of that. And LSU kind of fits into that mold. So if we see some, I wouldn't even say Herculean. I would just say if we see a lot of net positive games from Trieger and Big Low in the paint and Collier as well, we'll be fine. Madison Hayes as well going to have to show up. She's the team's leading rebounder. Plays pit bull defense. She's going to need to be relentless on the boards and fully healthy as well. We'll be just fine. But this bracket presents more tough matchups potentially than last year's by a mile. So if Florida State's girls want to do us a favor in that first round, hey, how y'all doing? We're very proud of you, Latson and Timpson. Please help us out. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm looking at in this year's bracket.
I was also intrigued by the amount of potential rematches that NC State could have within their own region here. Obviously, We are the 2 seed. LSU is the 3 seed. We saw them earlier this season, and we lost. Florida State is the 6 seed. We saw them earlier this season, put a beat down on them on the road. We also played the 5 seed in this region, which is Ole Miss. We did beat them as well. And the 9 seed is Georgia Tech. So we've seen almost the majority of teams within this region. And I do want to talk about number 1 seed, the UCLA as well. When you're looking at all the other 1 seeds, which is Texas, it's South Carolina, and it's USC, I think UCLA might be the most favorable 1 seed to get within this draw. I think NC State can potentially run with UCLA if it does come to that point, but it's a pretty tough draw. I think it's a much tougher draw than it was last season, but obviously we know they have the talent to get back to the Final Four, and if the chips fall possibly in some favorable manners with some of the other big-name seeds within this regional, you could see NC State advance to yet another Final Four. Kenton, you probably already answered it anyway, but give me the biggest threat you see in this same region as us.
I would definitely have to say it's LSU, but immediately behind LSU, I would say UCLA. UCLA, you talk about front courts that can give you problems. If you think that the All-American Lauren Betts is not going to give you problems, the young lady is 6'7" it's even tough to describe her game because I wouldn't quite say it's like what Alyssa Cunane could do, but it's not quite like Elizabeth Kitley either for those of us who are ACC women's basketball fans. It's something different. Like there's a certain amount of finesse and outside shooting that both of those players had. Betts does not have that. But you know what Betts does have? She has much better timing in terms of shot blocking than either of those players had. She is a real deal menace when it comes to when she gets locked in defensively, and then their wings are so long, they force you to take shots from weird angles where when Betts is the help side defender, she knows exactly what's coming and how it's coming. So don't get me wrong. When I say LSU is the biggest threat, that's not me saying that UCLA is nothing. No. UCLA is serious too. They didn't beat Juju Watkins and company to win a Big Ten championship by accident. They're not the Big Ten champs by accident. They're a very good team, but they are absolutely pliable. And I think that the matchup in terms of backcourts, I don't think that they can run with our backcourt. And I would want to say about 1 through 4 in terms of our top 4 in our backcourt. They don't have 4 that can match up with them. And by those 4, I'm talking about Isaiah James. I'm talking about Sanaya Rivers. I'm talking about Zoe Brooks. I'm talking about Zam Jones. I don't think they have anything to match up with that group in a meaningful way. So that's the only reason I'm like LSU is a little bit more difficult of an out. But again, UCLA, very good in their own right, not disrespecting the 1 seed at all.
So again, NC State is the 2 seed in the Spokane 1 region. UCLA is the top overall seed and the 1 seed within this spot. NC State will host the opening rounds in Raleigh. Pretty cool because the men's also has a regional in Raleigh. So playoff postseason March Madness basketball will be centered in Raleigh this coming weekend. NC State's the 2 seed. They will host the number 15 Vermont. And if they do advance past that game, they'll play the winner of Michigan State and Harvard. Very exciting time. It's time for Westmore and these ladies to lock back in. I do think it's strange that they have an entire week off after their conference tournament. They almost do it backwards for the women. The high major conference tournaments are 1 week, and then the mid majors are all this week going on when the men's have their high major. It's backwards. It's weird. But after a week off, the ladies are ready to get back into action. Cannot wait to see what they can do in this year's version of March Madness. It all starts on Friday for Westmore and the women's Wolfpack. That'll do it for us here on Monday. Obviously, very exciting times for NC State. Still waiting every single day for a new update in the Will Wade sweepstakes. We'll keep you updated as this week rolls on. March Madness is obviously now here as well. Perhaps that'll have some impact on this coaching search, but we'll keep our eyes peeled nonetheless. That will do it for us here on Monday. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop your comments in the comment box. Give us your thoughts on the Will Wade sweepstakes, on if it's heating up in the correct direction. If you do think that NC State will close on this by the end of this week or possibly sooner, but I would bet it'll probably be after McNeese loses. Anything else you have on your mind, drop that in the comment box as well. Mash that subscribe button. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Tuesday for more. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.